a good-looking pan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a plan. Hooray for Hollywood! When you're terrific, if you're even good. Where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck, you may be Donald Duck. Hooray for Hollywood!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich and Broadcasting premiere podcast. Damn you, Hollywood! And here's your host, Robert Winfree. Robert Winfree, wherefore art thou, Robert Winfree? Ladies and gentlemen, it's Robert Winfree. Yay!
Alright. The Shakespearean allusion was a little bit much, I think, and definitely not on brand for you and your introductions, but alright, fair enough.
I didn't have a...
You do know that wherefore out actually means why, right?
I ask why Robert Winfree all the time. Robert Winfree, here's the thing I'd like you to do. Here's 20 minutes on Robert Winfree telling me all the reasons why he doesn't want to do it and all the reasons what's wrong with the project I pointed out. And then I ask, why, Robert Winfree? Why for art thou, Robert Winfree?
Look, I am just jaded by the existence that I have become accustomed to since our association began, I suppose.
Robert Winfree, here's a movie I think you and Andrew Graham would like. Here's 100 reasons why I think you're stupid and this movie's stupid and I don't want to do it. Why for art thou, Robert Winfree?
For the record, I didn't give you 100 reasons. I said, sure, it looks somewhat interesting, but it's going to be filled with crappy melodrama. It's partially written by Ben Affleck, and it stars Matt Damon and Adam Driver. Forgive my reticence.
You should introduce the other person.
Well, let me introduce you both, because I have a new introduction for you.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I do. We're trying to keep this quick, so I will be quick about this. Ladies and gentlemen, again, this is Damn You Hollywood. I'm Robert Winfree. The Radulich and Broadcasting Network at the moment exists in this weird paradox where Mark insists there is no room on the schedule, yet we are so hard up for content we are now talking about an adaptation released directly to streaming platforms on Disney+.
You both asked to do this.
I didn't ask to do this. You asked if I wanted to do it, and I said, it's free.
That was a yes.
I do not recall at any point saying, oh, can I review this?
Anyway, you can hear our voices. First of all, because I have a new intro for him, I'm going to do him last. But Alexis Hejna is back with us to save you from the mansplaining, much as I hate that term, that Mark and I tend to do. Alexis, how you doing?
How long am I going to be on this show before I finally get you to drop that term? Mansplaining doesn't exist.
I agree, but if I can't tweak the listeners' nipples on occasion by mentioning some of the stupidity that is promulgated by our society, then what's the point?
It's like every time you guys apologize, we say, "Oh, sorry, we're mansplaining, Alexis." I go, "No, you're not mansplaining. You're being condescending assholes. That's all." And frankly, I knew you two were condescending assholes when I finally decided to join this network, so I'm kind of used to it.
I love the fact that you stole my tweaking nipples line.
Some of your nomenclature has leaked into my vocabulary. What do you want me to do? All right, and here with us also is I've tried a few of these different ones. I think I have one that'll finally stick. The casual to my fan, Mark Radulich.
Oh, that's perfect. Thank you, sir.
I think I'm going to stick with that one for a while, because you got a little bit bent out of shape when I pointed out that you are, in fact, a casual fan of many things.
You were talking about MMA, and you were being very judgy.
Yes, I judge people's fandom in MMA. Okay, again, because we're on kind of a time crunch, I'm going to ask you a single question about this, Mark, and I'm going to use this to determine whether or not I was being unfair. I assume you watch entire main card events for MMA. A, you're limited to the UFC if we're talking MMA. You don't watch anything else.
I watch
B,
bare knuckle boxing.
I said MMA.
Okay.
Stick with me. So, A, you only watch the main card.
No, that's not true.
hang on. Okay, mostly. B, when you watch a full main card, so there's a lot of these that you will DVR on occasion and then ask me to cherry pick 3 fights for you to watch. So discounting those, you will sit down and watch the entire main card of an event, almost exclusively pay-per-view, between 4 and 8 times a year.
It's probably right.
You're a casual fan. Deal with it.
We have
Moving
a
on.
movie to
We do. That's one of my points of distinction. And I don't blame you for being a casual fan. Being a hardcore fan of the sport burns you out in a hurry. Now, enough about that.
Yes.
Tonight we are reviewing, as mentioned earlier, the Disney Plus exclusive I can't say straight animated, but it's a CGI fest. The one and only Ivan, wherein Bryan Cranston has to carry... I assume they got Andy Serkis to do the motion capture, because why wouldn't you? This is based on a young adult novel written by Catherine Applegate, as my dog loses her mind. It's the story of a gorilla who is an attraction for a mall. If that doesn't already depress you, I don't know what to tell you. And the story about how this gorilla, through his artistic expression, was able to gain freedom, and by freedom, of course, we mean a safe, sheltered existence at a sanctuary. That's the story. I'm not going to go into any more detail than that. That's it. We can talk about some of the other more detailed stuff along the way if we feel like it. But it's your pretty basic... Okay, the gimmick here is that we hear the animals talk. Not that they are talking animals, but we get their perspective. So the animals talk to each other. It's got a decent cast. You have Sam Rockwell voicing Ivan the gorilla. You have Bryan Cranston doing the ringmaster gimmick. There's a few other people. Helen Mirren collected a check. Angelina Jolie collected a check and got a producer credit out of it, so good for her. There's not a lot here. This is your pretty basic, sappy, maudlin story. If I were to give you the basic premise for this story, you could tell me everything that's going to happen and probably be correct. So, Mark, I'm curious. For a couple of things I have to ask about how this got on the schedule, and this is not me complaining. I'm genuinely curious because I don't recall. Was this originally on the schedule before the pandemic?
Negative.
Okay, makes more sense. So it got announced as being exclusive to Disney Plus. You went, hey, Disney movie, and we all kind of went, yeah, we're all paying for this service anyway. We may as well get something out of it.
That was kind of the logic behind this. It was, I didn't know what the one and only Ivan was, but I'll tell you a quick backstory. I mentioned that the one and only Ivan was, not going to be in theaters. It was going to be on Disney Plus, and my wife goes, "Oh, that's a book third graders have to read at the end of the year." And I said, "Aha, okay. This now intrigues me because I can get my daughter to read the book, who's now in 4th grade, starting today. Thank you. Starting as of this recording today. If you're listening to this 6 months from now, it's not, she's been in 4th grade for a while. I said, okay, I'm going to have you read the book, and then we'll watch it as a family. It ended up just being me and her. And then you can tell me the differences between the book and the movie so that I can then bring them to the podcast. That was my idea. When I think I pitched it to you guys as, hey, this is on Disney Plus. Does anyone want to review it? And I think you initially said no, Robert. But Alexis said, I'll say what the heck. And I was like, okay, then I guess I'll put it on the schedule. And then I was shocked when I was like, hey, guys, we're talking about this week. And you both went, Brack? So...
In all fairness, Mark, the calendar is a total blur in this common age. So if it's a case of, we're reviewing something, it's not that we've, forgotten or put you off or anything. It's that we literally are judging the day of whether we wake up and say, okay, pants, no pants.
I live a
Fairly accurate.
I live a different existence than both of you. All right, let me start with this. My daughter.
You have to homeschool your children.
Only this week. Next week I don't. I also never stopped going to work when this whole pandemic started. So, the memes and the people talking about the social isolation. Yeah, that never happened to me. I have a whole other problem. But in any case, so my daughter talked about the major differences in the book. One, she complained to her mother behind my back that I was making her read this, and and I have to give my wife credit where credit is due, because I know I needle her a lot, but she really came through for me here. She kept Lily on the book because she was like, "You would have had to read this in school anyway. You need to finish it. This is meaningful to your father. Don't piss him off." So she read it, but her major problem with it was that it was a very sad book. And as she watched the movie, she focused a lot on Ruby, and I asked her, does Ruby have a bigger part in the book? And she said not really, that what she does in the movie, she mostly does in the book. She said the major difference between the book and the movie, and this is my major problem with the movie itself, is the lack of an antagonist. There's no bad guy. The bad guy is supposed to be Mac, and in the book, Mac is a lot meaner. Mac is a cruel master to Ivan. He's not the sympathetic, loses his wife caring for this gorilla character that we see in this movie, to where you feel sorry for him somewhat. He's actually a cruel person, and when he gets his comeuppance at the end, it's a cause célèbre, and you don't get any of that in the movie. And that's the thing I want to kind of draw a circle around and talk about for a minute, is how, and you guys you don't have to just wait for me to finish talking, you can jump in, but the dog is more of the antagonist than Mac is. Mac is just trying to get along, and then you see the flashback where Mac cared for this gorilla. He cared for it like it was a baby. And now maybe some people might project their lack of, they don't like when animals are made for show. They don't like the circus, they don't the whales, that sort of thing. And so they paint Mac
people who took Blackfish to be an actual representation of reality, when in fact it's biased tripe.
This movie does take place in, I'm assuming, late 70s, when you could get away with a circus in a mall featuring a gorilla and an elephant in a cage.
But I think as an audience member, you can project onto Mac, oh, he made the animals perform, so he's a bad guy, without actually making him do anything that was bad. And I think that's what kind of Disney counted on here. I don't know why they went in this direction. It made for a boring, you use the word maudlin, just soulless experience for me. And even my daughter sat there going like, I don't understand what's going on in this movie. Mac's supposed to be more evil than this. The dog, I think, has more to do with setting up the action in the movie. Like, he's encouraging Ivan to escape, which by the way doesn't exist in the book. In the book, there's no escape scene. He just learns to paint, and over the course of learning to paint and painting for the general public starts to say that this gorilla really should be released to the wild. There's no. I can't remember if the daughter of the one helper gets involved or not, but that was the main thing. Purely my own craft issues with this are, other than the escape scene, there's no action per se. There's no dramatic.
Well, when you say action, I mean,
I'm not looking for Michael Bay here.
No. I mean, if the essence of drama is conflict, and
that's the word I was looking for, conflict.
When you say there's no action, it's not that there's no explosions or chases or anything like that. There's not much of anything at all.
No, there's no conflict. The dog nags at Ivan. At one point, Ruby becomes a sympathetic character, and Ivan is somewhat motivated to free her from the zoo, and that leads to the denouement, which is the escape sequence. But other than that, it's just scene after scene of them talking. And what kind of moves this along? Do you remember Dumbo, Robert?
God help me, yes.
You know how like a lot of the conflict and drama and moving the action forward was supposed to be laid at the daughter's feet, and she was supposed to move things along. She was supposed to be our big hero.
And she's just wallpaper.
Yeah, same thing here. Like, Disney's now setting up a pattern of, we want young little girls to be the heroes of these things and give them, like, barely anything heroic to do. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to take a break here.
It feels... that template, what they're doing is they're not actually creating characters, they're creating a video game protagonist. It's an entirely blank slate that you're supposed to project yourself into, which is okay for video games, but terrible for movie writing.
Even my daughter, who's like a big feminist, looked at the daughter and was like, "That's a nothing character." For my daughter to say that, who in the Goonies liked the girls, you know, when wrestling's on, only cares about Bailey and Sasha.
I can't imagine anyone caring about Bailey or Sasha, but that's just me.
You're not a 9-year-old girl with a feminism complex.
Thankfully.
I mean,
for both myself and everyone else. By the way,
you know who my daughter like latched on to was Ruby. She thought Ruby was the best. That's her favorite character in the entire thing. She cared not for the little girl.
Well, none of these characters are interesting, just off the bat. I'm going to disagree with you slightly about the lack of an antagonist. Now, this is entirely down to personal preference.
The antagonist is the dog?
No.
Okay, then I don't know what you're talking about.
Hang on. I don't have a problem with a movie that lacks a traditional antagonist if the situation can be construed as such. Like, okay, I don't need Mac to be a mustache-twirly villain. If the gorilla has a burning desire for freedom, even if Mac is the most well-intentioned person in the world, the circumstance can be compelling enough.
The story itself can be the antagonist. You don't need a physical embodiment if the plot pushes it into that direction.
Okay, but this movie lacks all of that.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
None are.
This isn't Mark likes the linear storytelling bit. You know, Mark only likes movies with antagonists. I too can enjoy a story where the natural course of character interactions and happenings propel the action forward. I get that. That problem is the movie lacks both of these things.
I don't disagree with you there. So again, if your premise had been Mac should be evil, Mac doesn't have to be evil. I kind of like that they didn't make him evil. Now that said, if that's the direction you're going to go, you do have to change the characters to generate this to generate some kind of drama, some kind of conflict. You do need conflict. Conflict doesn't have to be interpersonal. It doesn't have to be one person is bad, one person is good, but there has to be conflict.
Right.
Here, there is a distinct absence of that until the gorilla promises to free the baby elephant, at which point he goes about it in the most lackadaisical way possible. Again, this is a badly constructed movie. I'm willing to concede that point.
Yeah, Braveheart this wasn't.
True. So
yeah, Ivan needed to be channeling William Wallace. Instead, he was channeling Mr. Rogers.
And the lack of conflict is a real problem for this movie. I have no issue with them making Mac a more sympathetic character. He can be desperate and just trying to hold on by a thread as malls go the way of the dodo bird.
It doesn't hurt that you get Bryan Cranston doing well. I legitimately think he was at least having fun with the performance, and he was none of the actors in this film, I think, give a bad performance. And I did enjoy seeing Bryan Cranston channel his inner Ringling Brothers.
I need to stop you there. I don't know direction-wise in the studio what they were thinking with Angelina Jolie, but Angelina Jolie whispering her dialogue was definitely a choice.
Wise old character, which is odd considering you have Helen Mirren as someone else.
You have to be audible. The ADR in this movie also sucks because you have Sam Rockwell speaking in a normal speaking voice in terms of how well he's heard. Danny DeVito chewing the scenery as a dog. Everybody else, I mean, I wish they had given more to the other animals. They're just, you get this Helen Mirren, Shaka Khan, Ron Funches, and then you don't give them anything to do until basically the escape scene, and even then, it's not a whole lot.
Yeah, I did want to see more from these other characters. I like the idea of the neurotic seal who's freaking out about keeping a ball on his nose. The cute little bunny rabbit who's too scared to get out of his truck. There's some really interesting potential there, and they do nothing with them. And yeah, most of these voice actors are wasted. And I'm just going to say, I'm not a fan of Angelina Jolie in the slightest. I have not liked nearly anything she's been in. But that has got to be the most underwhelming Disney death ever. Which is like, goodbye. I'm like, wait, she's dead?
Yeah, that was badly. It boggles my mind that this is the same studio, and I know there's different people involved, but how have we gotten to a point where societally we are now, well, you can't actually show death? We're like, oh, no, they close their eyes and go to sleep. I'm sorry. Scar through Mufasa into a herd of stampeding wildebeest. You're lucky there was an identifiable corpse. Bambi's mother gets shot.
They didn't even do a good job explaining what she was dying of. We know that.
I know. Would it have been that difficult to have a scene where Mac talks with the vet, and the vet's like, "Yeah, man, that's an old elephant."
I thought she was dying of arthritis.
Because the only thing we see that she has is that she's having trouble putting weight on a leg.
Right.
And I don't know anything about elephant biology, so maybe there's a condition that when the elephant has trouble, that's a sign of something worse. If there is, folks, comment, let us know. We're not biologists. We're, barely functioning pet owners. So,
do elephants have strokes? I mean, I
everything can have a stroke. If you have a brain, you can have a stroke.
Was she having a stroke?
I don't know.
Understand what was happening.
No, again, that's a badly constructed sequence. I need a scene where Mac talks with the vet, where the vet goes, "Yeah, this is even if you don't want to get into the weeds on it, just she's a very old elephant, and I hope you have an end of life plan set out because this is coming sooner rather than later."
There's also no strong setup for him wanting to leave. The beginning of it is, "I'm the star. I love it here. Oh no, I'm afraid Ruby's going to take my place," and in one sequence, he's like, "Fuck this place."
Yeah,
what?
That whole thing is badly set up. I'm perfectly on board with that. That's the characters slingshot around mostly because the plot says they need to.
I get that he doesn't, but I say I get, but I still don't really understand that he's a gorilla in captivity. He's happiness in slavery. This is fine for him. He likes being a circus animal. And then Ruby comes along, and his problem with Ruby is not that, oh no, not another animal in captivity. It's, oh shit, someone's stealing my spotlight. And then through the course of flashback, he's like, oh, that's right, I used to be a gorilla in the wild. I want to go home. I want to go home. I want to go home.
Shut up, Diana Ross.
Yeah, I agree. If you're not going to do this gorilla has always wanted to be free, I mean, even if you wanted to do a bit where, and again, this might take more nuanced writing than they were willing to dedicate to this, although the nuances, there is no nuance in this movie. It is just, hey, here's quasi-sad stuff that happens and people delivering dialogue. If you wanted to give some nuance, then the story you tell is Ivan wants to be free, but cares for Mac. This is the guy who raised him. So I don't want to be here. I would like to be outside and run in the grass and, be a regular animal, but I owe this guy, so to speak.
They don't really set up remembering his past. I mean, he talks for a while about how he doesn't remember his life before Mac, and then all of a sudden, Bob the dog says there's a difference between can't remember and won't remember, and he goes, oh, okay, now I remember my past. Okay, here's what happened.
Honestly, Bob the dog should have unzipped and the devil should have been standing there. That's the way he's presented.
I didn't get that, but okay.
I will say I enjoy Danny DeVito doing voice work. He always brings a lot of fun and charm when he's, playing a character like that.
Bob the dog's the only one moving the action forward. Bob the dog's like in his ear going, don't you want to be in the wild again? Yeah? Don't you remember your past? Yeah? Yeah. Don't you want to escape? Yeah.
Look, I'm not saying that Bob the dog is not the impetus. I'm saying I don't get the devil.
Well, because I'm saying Bob is the only evil character in the movie, as far as evil characters go.
Apparently we haven't gone past the antagonist discussion yet.
No, okay. Alexis, do you have anything else to add to the to the review? If not, we're going to move on.
Like I said before we started, this has got to be one of the most bland movies I have ever seen. I watched it today while I was having lunch, curled up on the couch. It finishes, I turn off the TV, I go upstairs to my office, and I think, well, there wasn't anything in this movie that I could think of that's, particularly bad. There's nothing in this movie that made me think, oh, God, that's so bad. But this is not a movie I'm going to remember within 12 hours, especially with the copious amounts of wine I'll probably be drinking later.
Robert, anything else to add to this discussion? If not, we're going to move on.
Jeez.
You don't have to add anything.
I know, I'm just trying to remember if there was anything that I had kind of sketched out that I wanted to touch on. There's a bunch of people here that are just collecting checks. There's a few people that actually, try to give a performance, and I think it's very obvious to tell which is which based on how much screen time their characters get. Helen Mirren showed up, read lines, refused to do more than one take. No one asked her to do more than one take anyway, and was out of there with her check. And fair enough. It's a job.
Yep.
You're not going to pour your passion into a role that's going to be on screen for 3 minutes. Okay, don't blame anybody.
Her agent was like, hey, wasn't Helen Mirren also in Artemis Fowl?
No, you're thinking of Judi Dench.
Okay, you're right.
I think the only person that I was happy to see in this movie, and she does the voice work, is Philippa Sue doing the voice of the parrot. She Eliza Hamilton in the Hamilton broadcast, and I remember seeing her name, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. She's getting more work. Awesome, because I'm a big Hamilton fan.
Yeah, I feel like Helen Mirren's agent called her up and was like, hey, you want to get a Disney check for a couple of hours of voice work? Sure, what am I doing? Snickers the Poodle. Fuck it, whatever.
Yeah, again, it's like I love that Philippa Sue is getting work because I want to see more of her. But again, it's like she was probably in that recording studio for 2 hours tops.
Yeah, I'm at a loss a bit as to how or why this got made. I mean, this apparently has been and I say that just because.
Hang on, you know what? Let me stop you there. Let me play the money thing, and then you can continue.
Okay.
All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Here comes the money.
Here comes the money.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money. Money, 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 money.
Dollar, dollar. Dollar, dollar.
Go on.
Again, I'm at a bit of a loss as to how this got made. Not because there's some great mystery about. There's some stuff that you look at and go, okay, who thought this was a good idea? I can kind of see why people might have thought this was a good idea.
Well, like I said before, if the average third grader has to read this as a book, and you're Disney and your operating model is make stuff that kids are familiar with because they'll drag their parents to the theater,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, so I am not at a loss as to the logic behind this movie getting made. The rights to this movie were acquired in 2014. It's been somewhat in production basically since then. They got a screenwriter in 2016. I don't understand how you could spend 4 years or so on a project and arrive at this. If you're making a movie like this gets made in this fashion, usually because somebody cares a whole lot. Because there's no outcry for this, right? There's no petition. This was not. Look, kids might be forced to read it, but this is not a giant bestseller, right? This is not an IP that people are screaming for an adaptation for to the big screen.
I don't know.
And-
I mean, Jolie joined the film as a producer and an actor. I'm wondering if this was somewhat driven by her, like her kids read it or she read it to her kids, and it became like a passion project. Because at the heart of this thing is animals shouldn't be held in captivity and should be allowed to roam wild. I can imagine, given Angelina Jolie's, her altruism, that might be something that she. And again, I'm projecting a lot here, but I would imagine Angelina Jolie fell in love with this book and was like, the world needs to know that animals should not be in captivity, and they've already done Dunbo.
The supreme irony, of course, in that whole logic being these animals are not released into the wild. They're released into very secure environments because you can't release a gorilla that's been in captivity for the vast majority of its life into the wild. It dies very, very quickly.
But I think a reasonable person accepts that, and at least they're not made to perform.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with the generalized point that if you take ethical issue with dancing monkeys, okay. I think that's a perfectly fine argument that you can make. I wonder if the original person who had some passion for this wasn't the producer who died before it got made.
Maybe.
Was that who the film was dedicated to? Because I saw there was a in memoriam of. I didn't catch who it was.
Yeah, Allison Shearmer, who was originally set to produce this. She passed in 2018, I think. So, point being, if there was someone who had a lot of passion for this artistically and not just for the cause, that did not come out. What came out was a fairly soulless, maudlin, I don't know, safe? Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Very, very safe movie.
I don't know what drunk thought this was going to be like. The fact that this wasn't dedicated solely to Disney Plus to begin with, maybe they didn't know it at the time. So like their options were theatrical release or like home video or something, and they're not really doing that anymore. So instead, it's like, well, everything goes to the theater, and we'll release it over the summer, and kids will go see it, and that'll be fine. And I'm like, now that they have Disney Plus, and now if you start production on something now, you know that Disney Plus is an option. You have to look at a project like this and go, yeah, we're making this for Disney Plus, because nobody's going to the movies to see this.
Well, we don't have information since we are in the money segment. We don't have information on the budget. Given how good a lot of the CGI is on the animals, it can't have been cheap.
Yeah, but what's the point of, embellishing on the CGI for the animals when we've already seen The Jungle Book and The Lion King, which blew us out of the water with how amazingly realistic the animals looked. The animals, admittedly, don't even look realistic enough. There is a cartoony sense about their style, and maybe that's because they're a lot more expression. They show a lot more expression than what we've seen in the past movies. I mean, you got...
Lion King needed this style of animation, for the record.
Yeah, no kidding. I would have killed for that. And I remember thinking that it's not a big deal that they're not going with realistic animation on this because they're trying to keep it a little more silly and cartoony, and this style works better for it. But again, it's like we've already seen so many films come out of Disney where the special effects on how realistic they make the animals look is amazing, you know? And then you go see the trailer for The Wild with Harrison Ford and you go, no way in hell am I believing that shit.
Lady and the Tramp had better CGI than this.
I haven't seen Lady and the Tramp. I can't comment.
No,
Again,
we reviewed it.
Well, they look more realistic. These animals, I think, were given, when they did the designs, they said, we'll keep it a little bit more cartoony. And I was fine with that.
All right. So speaking of the money, so yeah, because of the COVID, they wiped it off the schedule, put it on Disney Plus. No harm, no foul. I don't think this would have made back its budget. If you're
Probably not.
If you're wondering where we are worldwide box office, and I do have something I want to add to this, it's basically the same. There's maybe one or two weird changes here, but it's Bad Boys, Sonic, Doolittle, Harley Quinn, The Invisible Man, Babai, B-A-B-A-I, Onward, Call of the Wild, Fantasy Island, and finally Underwater. But here is what I find fascinating. Scoob, by the way, which also had a straight-to-video release, straight to VOD, $15 million. That's how much that's made. Trolls World Tour, $11 million.
If you want to know why studios are not anxious to go the way of VOD release, look at those two movies, and that will tell you everything about why they're not.
My Spy, $10 million. And then I want to talk about just briefly about if you deigned to get out of your house and go see a movie in a theater that's open. The theaters were operating on the backs of re-releases. So like Jurassic Park, Jaws, The Empire Strikes Back, Temple of Doom, Raiders of the Lost Ark. So here's just a couple.
Steven Spielberg is the saving grace of the movie industry right now. To
the shock of no one.
Jurassic Park is the leader with $1,601,000. It's 2020 re-release. That's how much it made. In second place, Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back.
The only good one.
Jaws in third place with $758,000. Ghostbusters $620,000. Cat Video Fest 2020 $437,000, made more than Iron Man, which made $430,000.
What the hell is Cat Video Fest?
I don't know. You look it up and tell me. Back to the Future $403,000. Black Panther $367,000. Gremlins $295,000. Bohemian Rhapsody $285,000. You just throw it on the billion that it made. Let's see.
I still don't. If you're not a super fan of the band, I still don't get the appeal of Bohemian Rhapsody. It is so badly edited.
Yeah, I really liked it.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm not saying there is none. I'm saying I don't understand it.
And somewhere in the United States was a 40th anniversary showing of The Shining, which made just about $19,000.
My favorite.
I think I saw that. I think I was part of that.
Killer Raccoons 2, Dark Christmas in the Dark, made $8,934,000. And that's it. Somewhere in there, I should have found the Goonies. I took my kids to a couple of these. We saw Temple of Doom, which I don't see here, and the Goonies, which I also don't see.
Yeah, I saw Jaws a couple of times. Once with part of my family. Then I took my youngest brother for his birthday to go see it. We saw, I think we saw Raiders and Last Crusade in theaters because those are movies that you need to experience in that particular format. They were shot for that. They're made for that.
I missed one. Inside Out, 2020 re-release, $460,000. Also made more than Iron Man.
Iron Man's been out for so long and is on so many streaming platforms, I don't think that doesn't surprise me.
I found what Cat Video Fest is.
Oh boy, please tell us.
It's exactly what you think it is. It's 40 minutes of cat videos.
Well, it made more than Iron Man.
Oh, someone go buy Robert Downey Jr. a strong drink.
All right.
Dude, he probably paid for a bunch of those particular... like, he saw that movie a bunch of times. You know that, right? Like, he is responsible for at least 100,000 of Cat Video Fest success.
Well, the theaters are back open again. We will resume normal Damn You Hollywoods going forward. In fact, we have a double header this Monday because this Friday is finally Chris Bailey, The New Mutants. And if you're in some special theaters, otherwise it's going to be on VOD. I've actually pre-ordered the VOD already. Bill and Ted Face the Music. And we're going to review both of those for you separately Monday, August 31st. So that's what you got coming up. And then you have Tenet coming into theaters on August 2nd. And I just want to mention this briefly. I don't want to get into a whole tangent on it. Mulan, which they've scrapped from the domestic theater release, it is coming out in China in theaters. Apparently their theaters are open, I guess.
Look.
Instead...
No. Their theaters will be temporarily open for that, and attendance will be mandatory.
Terrific. And here in the old United States... if you have a Disney Plus subscription, you also have to fork over an extra $30. Robert, I just need a yes or no. Are you actually going to pay the $30 for Mulan, or are you going to put on a pirate hat?
I will probably not put on a pirate hat.
Oh, that's right. You were going to get your family to cough over the money.
Robert,
well, look,
Robert, if you're interested, I will split it with you, and I can just give you my login information if you want to forward me $15. I will happily do that for you if you want.
I pay for the service. I've got that. What I'm probably going to wind up doing, because my as with any family, there's a lot of sharing of various account information.
Oh boy.
I can't get my parents to fork over their passwords.
That's weird. Not to get anyone in trouble, but my brother is happy to lend me his HBO Max subscription. That's how I have that.
My parents
right.
throw and say, "Your husband has a paying job. Go buy it yourself."
All right. So the moral of the story is you are going to be on for the Mulan review Monday, September 7th.
Yes. If I can't make it, it will not be because I will let you know enough in advance if I can't make it, but yes, I should be.
All right. So we've got that coming up, as I said, September 7th, and then we'll have Tenet on a separate day, September 9th. I know instead of doing back-to-back on the same day, we're going to split those over a day or so. And then we'll have The Kingsman, The King's Man, which comes out September 18th. And we'll review it on the 23rd. So, we're getting there. We're getting slightly back into the groove again, shaky groove thing.
I was so looking forward to not having seen any movies from that particular series.
Well, the schedule beckons, my good friend. All right, with that said, it is time. Are you ready? We haven't done this in a while.
Are you ready? I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
The cheese stands alone. The cheese stands alone. Hi-ho, the dairy-o, we stand alone. This thing got a 67% tomato meter critical score. But the audience score, hang on, the reason I'm reading this, the audience score on this,
90-something?
75%.
Little surprised by that.
Yeah, did they just go all Pretty Monkey?
Yeah, did we not all see the same movie, or did we get the cut that got thumbs down at the critic screening or at the test audience?
If I had to, look, since when is the audience this discerning? Is kind of my first reaction.
Well, here's what Lauren Coates thinks of culturists. Culturists, Robert. Are you ready for culturists?
I would say something deeply unkind, but I'm working on that. I will wait until until I have something beyond the name of the publication.
Despite its refusal to engage in any significant discourse about the treatment of animals being held in captivity, as well as the fairly flat filmmaking, the one and only Ivan still has enough magic in it to make us tear up a few times. All right, admittedly, when they were showing the actual Ivan, that's when I got teary-eyed. The rest of this movie, I was like, can I pass out?
As if you're sick of woke Disney by now.
I was sick of woke Disney before it became a thing. Look, I'm not going to pretend that there's not scenes in this movie that potentially tug at the heartstrings. I'm sure there are. There's a few that got me on occasion. I'm also dead enough inside to appreciate intellectually the blatant emotional manipulation going on, so it doesn't actually resonate. That said, if that's kind of the big mark of what this person is saying is, again, this is a very flat, very largely uninteresting movie. Can I also just say, there's no significant discourse. Shut up. It's a kid's movie. There's a finite amount of discourse that's going to go into those things. That, to be abundantly clear, that doesn't mean kids' movies have to be dumb. I've made that case has been made here and elsewhere. I really object to the notion that every movie has to stand on some kind of social platform. It doesn't. Here, I think the movie is honestly a little bit better off for not going the profoundly mustache-twirly way with its villain. Don't get me wrong.
It does disagree.
Hang on. It needs some kind of motivation. I'm not disagreeing there. And if your point is, well, we're not going to do anything interesting, so we get bland or mustache-twirly villain, okay, probably the mustache-twirly villain is a better way to go. I also, personally, get really, really sick of the same thing over and over and over again. So here, showing that the caretaker actually cares about the animals that he is supposed to be taking care of, I liked it. Again, that means narratively it needed something else. Sure. But I'm really kind of sick of the all animals in captivity are wildly mistreated motif. It's just tiring to watch.
Next one. Larushka Ivan Zadeh of the Times UK. Top critic. Best in the business. They get paid for this. Ivan may be the one and only, quote unquote, but this cuddly blend of Dumbo and Born Free feels far from unique.
Look, there's a better version. Tell you what, I will give you a somewhat obscure Disney movie that actually does a very similar story to this better. It's called, I believe it was Born to be Wild. Because,
oh my God, I was thinking of that exact movie while I was watching this.
Because, gorilla in a supermarket as an attraction. In that case, it's a signing gorilla, and our hero is your typical angsty teenager. But at least that movie, on a few different occasions, has some depth to it. And you get Peter Boyle as the shameless owner of said gorilla. So, there's, again, this same loose story has been done better in the past, even by more obscure Disney fare.
You're going to love this next one.
Oh, joy.
Alan Adams of The Maine Edge, and Maine is M-A-I-N-E, as in the state.
Okay.
Alan Adams, The Maine Edge. The one and only Ivan tries to do a lot. Probably too much, really.
If you
I'm
think
not
this movie...
done, Jesus Christ.
Oh, how is this bland sycophantic sentence going on?
The one and only Ivan tries to do a lot, probably too much, really. However, it is so sincere in its efforts that it works. What kind of movie does a 400-pound gorilla make? Whatever kind he wants. Yuck, 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 yuck.
Okay, you, sir, should be ashamed of yourself. Your parents should be ashamed of you. I assume you're a sad, lonely, single person, but if you have a significant other, they should be ashamed of you for that. That's such... First of all, this movie doesn't try to do much of anything to its detriment. It's not trying to do too much. Shame on you. Shame on you. I would say the great state of Maine deserves better, but I'm not sure how accurate that sentiment is. Just shame on you. Your readers certainly deserve better.
Tom Beasley of Vulture Hound. There's an easygoing sense of heart at the core of the one and only Ivan, which gently teases out the personalities of its animal characters.
I can somewhat agree with the first half of that sentiment. There's a degree of heartfelt going on here. I don't know how artificial it is or versus how genuine it is, but it's there. I mean, that's really all this movie has going for it, is trying to poke at your heart. But no, the personalities of none of the animals are actually revealed or exploited throughout this movie. That's a big problem with it. This thing's only 95 minutes. I don't know if it could have used more or should have been better, or other elements of it should have been better paced out, but no, the animals are afterthoughts, with like 2 exceptions.
All right, I'm going to read a couple more of these, and then we're going to be done for the night. Jason Escamilla of Eskimo TV. Sweet, charming, contrived, and for kids only. No, not even kids like this. At least not mine.
I struggle with that. It's overly contrived, sure, and it's alternately maudlin and saccharine and sappy. Fair enough. I do think that if anyone enjoys this, it is only going to be children or the otherwise mentally handicapped.
Okay.
I hate to say it, I just realized I was looking back at a few images on RottenTomatoes.com. Everything in the climax, the animals escaping, the protesters, Ivan doing the mural, all of that happens literally within 10 minutes of the end of the film.
Yep.
Well, this person would rather you, instead of smoking pot, watch this movie. Brian Lloyd of entertainment.ie. Yes? Alexis, were you going to say something?
No, I said I'll take pot, thank you. Sorry.
Thea Sharrock's direction is light and gentle and wrings every drop of sentiment out of Mike White's script for something that may not necessarily be everyone's best work, but is more than sufficient at passing 95 minutes in a pleasant manner. So,
there's plenty of other ways to pass 95 minutes.
There's all kinds of drugs out there. You don't need this movie.
Look, as a person who does not imbibe mind-altering substances at all, I could find better ways to pass 95 minutes than this.
All right. Finally, Asher Luberto of the playlist. The one and only Ivan knows what families and animal lovers crave, and the uplifting, soul-stirring finale demonstrates this perfectly. Yep, this person was writing for the DVD box.
Yep.
Seriously, the climax finale. There is no climax finale. This movie just ends.
Believe it or not, I know some people think if there's a climax to the action, such as it is, it's the escape scene. If there's anything approximating an emotional climax, it's not. For me, it wasn't actually Ivan. Once he gets to his habitat, it's his goodbye with Bryan Cranston. And to be abundantly clear, I think a lot more of that is due to the acting of Bryan Cranston than anything in the script.
All right, tomorrow we'll be reviewing SummerSlam and NXT 30 on Wednesday.
They both sucked.
Easy, cowboy.
Hold on. Tell me I'm wrong.
I thought it was 2 solid nights of wrestling.
Wow. You are starved for entertainment.
Maybe.
You know, you could actually just talk about this tomorrow.
I'm not on that show. I just had to get it out there.
You're also in the minority. I think like the vast majority of people who saw both shows liked both.
Look, I am perfectly willing to be the lone person crying out for sanity in an insane world. I'll be very brief. The main event for NXT went about 10 minutes too long. The ladder match sucked and was nothing but a spot fest. The rest of it was okay. For SummerSlam, the Thunderdome still is just too much of a surrealistic experience to be all that interesting. I like The Fiend, but most people don't. Roman Reigns should die in a fire. He's an utter waste of space on screen. Yeah, I don't care that I'm orphaning his daughter.
Okay.
Hang on.
Simmer down, Satan.
The Bayley, the only interesting thing from SummerSlam was the Asuka versus Bayley and Sasha kind of storyline they had going on. Everything else it barely existed.
Okie dokie. Well, you'll hear other perspectives tomorrow night on TV Party, and then on Wednesday, Jesse got to pick an album to review. He picked Unleash the Archer's Abyss. Next week, we have a double shot of Damn You Hollywood, New Mutants, and then Bill and Ted Face the Music. We'll be reviewing the Demon Bear saga on Source Material live September 1st, and then we'll also be doing a TV party for Payback, because for some odd reason, the WWE scheduled 2 major wrestling events a week apart.
Payback is not a major event.
And then Alexis Hejna will be on a second set of Source Material. We'll be doing Bill and Ted Save the Universe. And then finally, myself and Sean Comer will be doing a Long Road to Ruin for the Bill and Ted movies, which I just did a marathon with my family. My kids preferred the first one. My wife and I prefer the second one. That's how that landed. You can check out more of Alexis Hejna on TV Party tonight. We reviewed Upload. Last week, myself and Jesse Starcher reviewed Hunter Gatherer by Avatar. And myself and Chris Sheehan reviewed Avengers No Road Home. Alexis, and then Robert, go ahead and do your plugs.
All right, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. We are getting ready for our big annual Labor Day sale. This is going to be going on all Labor Day weekend. Everything in our shop is going to be, you guessed it, 20% off. We don't do sales this big that often, and we have just uploaded a ton of new products. For you Avatar fans, we have our brand new White Lotus choker with matching earrings. If you're a fan of the Metroid game series, we have a new set of Metroid earrings. Had a lot of fun designing those. I actually, Robert, I think I sent you a picture of those. I actually asked for your feedback.
You might have.
Maybe. Can't remember. And, of course, I mentioned this on our review of Upload, plug. We have our brand new Halloween 3 Season of the Witch hair barrette featuring the 3 iconic masks. Yeah, go ahead and get that song stuck in your head. I don't care. I love it. And I want Halloween to get here as soon as possible. Of course, you can find our stuff on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. You can always find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Under Duress Twitter. Keep checking our social media outlets. You will see more updates. You will see more pictures of our new products, and you'll get more information on the sales. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
As for me, you can find me in the most Saturdays in the MMA Zone of 411 Mania doing live coverage if you're into the sport. This last week it was UFC on ESPN 15, bantamweight debut of Frankie Edgar on a very, very injury-riddled card. They only had 9 fights start to finish. On the plus side, a couple of good fights, some good finishes, largely inoffensive. This coming Saturday is another very depleted card, headlined by a 3-round fight because our main event fell out a few weeks ago, and I don't blame anybody, especially light heavyweights, for not wanting to fight 5 rounds on short notice. Between Anthony Smith and Alexander Rakic, you can also get my thoughts on John Jones vacating the light heavyweight belt to move up to heavyweight. Brief thoughts on the only way to watch Bellator with the sound off, because good Lord, Mike Goldberg and Big John McCarthy are just the worst. I think I also talked about a couple of boxing outcomes because I watched a fair amount of combat sports this last Saturday instead of just the UFC because that took less time than normal. You can also find my
shot Dillian White took. Oh my God,
that was a beautiful uppercut. That is one of the prettiest punches you will ever see.
Yeah, that was it was almost cartoony the way he fell.
No, what was cartoony the way he fell was that poor dumb schmuck that Joe Smith Jr. knocked out. Knocked him straight through the ropes.
Wow.
So you can find some of my thoughts on that stuff, as well as my preview of the upcoming card, which I will be covering this Saturday in the MMA Zone of 411 Mania. If you want to watch me slowly go insane, you can find my reviews of MLW's old Underground television show, because that's what they're releasing on YouTube while they're not paying everyone and shut down.
Well, and who doesn't want to see you just go absolutely insane?
Look, when a CM Punk promo is the best thing on your 30-minute television show, something has gone terribly, terribly wrong. So you can find my review of their truncated episode this week. This was episode number 7, I believe. And since that's what they're releasing on Saturdays, you can I assume I will be reviewing episode number 8 this coming Saturday/Sunday, so you can find me there. And then this coming week for our double review of movies that I really could not possibly care less about if I tried.
All right. Thank you for joining us here on Damn You Hollywood. We're happy to be back, despite what Robert says. We'll be back again next week. Until then, be well, be safe, and behave.